The quickest way to understand it is this. Spiritual intelligence is the part of you that helps you pause, see what's really happening beneath the surface, and make a choice that comes from awareness rather than fear, habit, pressure, or conditioning. And I want to give you a real example of what that looks like, because this isn't just a theory. Back in 2016, I was living in Egypt and I suddenly found myself out of work. I had bills to pay, I had responsibilities, I had children to look after. And for 3 months, I did what most people would do. I applied for jobs. I chased opportunities. I kept looking outside myself for something that would make me feel secure again. And every day, the pressure just got heavier. The money was going down. The options seemed to be closing. My thinking became narrower and narrower. I could feel myself trying to force my life back into a shape that didn't really fit me anymore. And then something shifted. I stopped long enough to question the whole direction of my thinking. Why was I chasing work that didn't feel aligned with who I was? Why was I acting as though my security had to come from someone else giving me permission? Why was I ignoring the skills, experience, teaching ability, and body of work that I already had? That moment was spiritual intelligence. It wasn't a mystical experience. It wasn't a voice from the clouds. It was just clarity. It was discernment. It was the ability to see the fear behind the action and recognize that another choice was actually available. So I started offering classes again. At first, nothing looked certain from the outside. My money was still going down. I still had a lot of pressure. I still had responsibility, but something important had changed inside me. I'd stopped treating fear as the only source of information. And then the work began to grow. Within a few months, I had rebuilt my income in a way that matched my skills, experience, and direction far better than the jobs that I'd been chasing. And that's what spiritual intelligence actually does. It doesn't always remove fear. It changes your relationship with fear. It helps you see that fear may be loud, but it doesn't have to lead. Spiritual intelligence is sometimes called SQ or spiritual quotient, but I prefer to keep it much more practical. It means discernment, meaning, and aligned action. Discernment means you can tell the difference between fear and intuition, pressure and clarity, conditioning and truth. Meaning means you can look at an experience and ask, what is this showing me? What pattern is active here? What part of me is being called to grow? Aligned action means you actually do something with that awareness. You make a different choice. You respond differently. You stop handing your life over to the same old pattern. That's the point where spiritual intelligence becomes real. And it shows up in ordinary life. It shows up when you pause before reacting. It shows up when you notice the same relationship pattern appearing again and again, and you choose to learn from it. It shows up when a decision looks sensible on paper, but something deeper in you knows it isn't aligned. It shows up when you feel fear and still take the step that matches your values. This is also why spiritual intelligence goes deeper than self-awareness. Self-awareness helps you notice what you think and you feel. Spiritual intelligence asks where those thoughts and feelings came from, what they're revealing, and what response will bring you closer to truth. So imagine a relationship ends and you feel completely rejected. One level of awareness says, I feel hurt. Well, that's useful. Spiritual intelligence goes further. It asks, what was I attached to? What belief has been triggered? What did this relationship reveal? What can I learn while still honoring the pain? And that is a completely different level of engagement. and it brings you closer to reality. Spiritual intelligence also helps you understand your conditioning. A lot of what people call me is really inherited programming. Family expectations, cultural assumptions, school experiences, social pressure, old wounds, past disappointments, repeated emotional patterns. And these things shape what you believe you deserve. They shape the choices you think are available. They shape the life you keep recreating. Spiritual intelligence gives you the ability to ask, is this really mine? Or did I absorb it somewhere along the way? And that question changes everything. It also helps you work with intuition more accurately. A strong feeling can be useful. It can also be fear, fantasy, projection, or a trauma response. Spiritual intelligence helps you listen inwardly and test what you're sensing. Over time, you begin to recognize the difference between a frantic impulse and clear inner knowing. Clear intuition usually has a steadier quality. It feels clean, direct, and grounded, even when it asks something difficult of you. So, how do you develop spiritual intelligence? You start by observing your mind. Spend a few minutes each day just watching your thoughts. Notice how quickly the mind comments, judges, predicts, compares, remembers, and defends. And this creates space between your awareness and your thoughts. Once you can observe a thought, you're already less trapped inside it. Then you can ask better questions. When a reaction feels strong or familiar, ask, what is this showing me? What belief has been triggered? What am I trying to protect? What pattern is repeating here? What would be the most aligned response? And those questions move you from reaction into awareness. Next, look for repeated patterns. Most people's challenges come in familiar forms, similar relationship dynamics, recurring money fears, predictable responses to criticism, repeated forms of self-sabotage, habitual ways of avoiding discomfort. Spiritual intelligence begins when you stop treating each situation as separate and start recognizing the deeper patterns underneath. And writing helps with this. Use a notebook to track reactions, choices, intuitive nudges, emotional triggers, dreams, insights, and moments of alignment. When you write things down, patterns become easier to see. What feels messy in your head often becomes much clearer on the page. And also pay attention to your body. Spiritual intelligence isn't only mental. Your body often knows when something is aligned or forced, unsafe, complete, or out of step before the thinking mind catches up. Notice contraction, expansion, tension, warmth, heaviness, breath, posture, and gut-level response. The body carries information. Awareness helps you interpret that wisely. Then practice stillness before action. When something activates you, just pause. Even a few seconds can change the direction of your response. And ask, am I about to react from fear, wound, pride, habit, or alignment? That one question can prevent a lot of unnecessary damage. And finally, choose one aligned action each day. It could be setting a boundary, having an honest conversation, completing a task you've avoided, apologizing, resting, meditating, creating something, helping someone, or saying no to something that no longer fits. Small aligned actions build inner trust. That's the practical side of spiritual intelligence. It's awareness becoming choice. It's meaning becoming action. It's discernment becoming a different life. So begin simply. Pause once a day and ask, am I reacting from fear, habit, or alignment? That one question begins to train spiritual intelligence because it moves you from automatic living into conscious choice.